Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to Wobble and Joe Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you're a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Let's get stuck into the next round of the NRLW, round number 7. Round 7 starts on Saturday from 11 a.m. at Queensland Country Bank Stadium as North Queensland host the West Tigers. Sportsbet have got Cowboys at $1.10, whereas the Tigers are approximately $6.50. Let's go into the team list for the North Queensland Cowboys now. Crystal Blackwell is out with a reported quad injury, but she's been named as 18th player, so watch this space on her. And then the wingers, Nate Corey and Tawa Laliku. She was a very late inclusion. Made her debut last weekend against the Brizzy Broncos. Ricky Henry obviously must have a high opinion of this woman to have her debut against one of, if not the premier team of the competition. But I thought she held her own last weekend, man. I liked some of the things that I saw. She's a recruit from Manly, from the Harvey Norman New South Wales Women's Premiership, and I thought that Manly and the Gold Coast Titans had a deal. Well, the Cowboys swooped in and got this very young and impressive woman to debut on the wing, and she maintains the rage this weekend on the wing. And the centres, arguably, my opinion anyway, the best centre combination in the competition, Peters and Whitfeld. Halves remain the same as Tillett and Dibb. The forward pack, Harden, Manzelmann and S.A. Barnu returns after 2 weeks out due to personal reasons, I believe. And then the forward pack now, the back row, I should say, Shania Power starts with jersey 11 on her back. And that's because China Palata, I believe it is a shoulder injury that will keep her out for the rest of the 2024 season. She has been unfortunately injury riddled over the past 12 months or so. So speedy recovery to Miss China Palata. Her season's over, and it was just announced this past week as well that Mackenzie Wheel's season is over due to repeated concussions. Massive kudos to Wheel and Palata. Rashtrand Smith and Bree Chester round out the back row. The interchange reads Faifua, Yarrow, Muka, and Horida Butler. And Horida Butler really is starting to show some of that BMD Premiership form, man. A shame that she's starting off the bench in jersey 17, but I think it's because she might have an injury herself. Let's go into the team lists for the West Tigers, but before I do, there is another change for the Cowboys as well, and that's Lily Peacock is out with concussion. Getting into the West Tigers team list now, and Bo Vetti Welsh is at fullback, Thorne and Pollard the wings, and then the centre combination of Tufunga and Rokia Horn, a deadly combination, centre combination that one is as well. The halves pairing, Rasabale and Lutu, the forwards, Togatuki, Pryor, Pio, and the back row, Talatena, Clifford and George. Underrated back row. Young and inexperienced together as a whole, but that back row sticks together. That could be a very underrated, hard-hitting, hard-working back row. The interchange reads McGlone, Ranke, Penatani, and Chelsea Saville will make her NRLW debut this weekend. Salma Noor is out with a PCL injury, and Sophie Curtin out with injury as well. The Tigers, they have proven to be a difficult team to take down at different stages throughout this year, but unfortunately they weren't in the game last weekend. Whereas for the North Queensland Cowboys, they can take some positives out of a heavy loss to the Brisbane Broncos last weekend. They were in it. They were well against them, against the Brizzy Broncos last weekend, but unfortunately that second half wasn't good enough. Unfortunately, they'll be the first to admit that, and the Brizzy Broncos are a real deal, and we'll get into them shortly. I do think the Cowboys have the superior forward pack here. I do think they have a better back line as well, despite a really good centre combination for the West Tigers. They've got to really be focused here. This is a danger game. The West Tigers are dealing with injuries. Now the Cowboys are. But I still think that there is enough quality depth here to take care of the West Tigers, to win up in Townsville and be 2-0 against the West Tigers in Cowboys history, and to keep their finals hopes alive. Come on, Cowboys. The second game on Saturday emanates from Kogarah, kicking off at 12:45. The Dragons versus the Raiders. It is the Dragons who are the favourites at $1.45. The Raiders are $2.75. The Dragons, can you just keep things simple and steady for me? I tip you one week and you bloody lose, and then vice versa, and then you win, and now you've gotten rid of your head coach for next season. Calm it down, for goodness sake. Well, in a little way they have. They've kept the same 1-17, but they've shuffled a couple of players around. But Casey Ray and Racine McGregor remain the halves pairing. And then for the Canberra Raiders, oh man, they're fast starters, and then they fade badly. Their defence isn't good. And when that sin bin occurred to Holly May Dodd last weekend, that was the end of them, unfortunately. And that was with about 10 minutes to go in the first half. And this weekend, Holly May Dodd, Nato Katoka, and Samaima Taufa are out for the Canberra Raiders. Unfortunately, for the Raiders fans, I've got to go the Dragons here. And they might even win this one 13+ after posting a huge upset win against the Parramatta Eels last weekend. This is the biggest Sunday to date in the NRLW. 3 games, all with massive implications, and this one might be the game of the round. Cronulla versus the Roosters. Sharks are $1.80. Roosters are $2 outsiders. Sharks have named an unchanged lineup. The Roosters have one change. Maya Hilmawana comes in for Millie Elliott. The Roosters let the Raiders get out to a 10-point lead, and I know they scored a try before Holly May Dodd got sin bin, but that sin bin changed the entire game. They're still going to be without Jess Surgis and another couple of players this weekend. There's just something about the Roosters that I'm just not clicking with, but they definitely had a better account of themselves this past weekend, completing at 98% in that first half, only making the one error. Absolutely fantastic effort from the Roosters, but still though defensively I'm not all there convinced with the Sydney Roosters. Meanwhile, the Cronulla Sharks had a stern test against the Titans in the first half and then really ran away with it. I think the Sharks are the real deal. They are going to be so hard to stop this year, and the next couple of weeks reveal a hell of a lot about them as well, even more so. They've now gone up to Gold Coast. They're coming back home now to take on the Roosters, and then they're away to the Brizzy Broncos next weekend, back up to the Gold Coast. That game is shaping up as a monster clash. But this weekend, I'm pretty confident, whilst it won't be 13+, I'm pretty confident Sharks do win, and I'm going to give them the 1-12 victory. From Eric Tweeddale Stadium, the Parramatta Eels host the Gold Coast Titans, and the Titans are $1.45 favourites. The Eels are $2.75, and you want to hope that the Paramedics are ready to rock and roll at Eric Tweeddale Stadium this weekend. For the Parramatta Eels, shocking news that Kennedy Charrington is out for the rest of the season with a knee injury. For the Gold Coast Titans, Sienna Lefipo and Riley Jorgensen return to action this weekend. Eels, what the hell happened there? I think maybe it's just the case that this young, at times inexperienced, not well gelled together side that came last year, maybe just the cracks really are starting to show. That was a shocking, not as in bad, even though they did league 40, but it was shocking, the result. Nobody was really anticipating that except for the Dragons in a sanctum. Meanwhile, the Titans, they were in it. Defensively, they were really in it against the Sharks in that first half. But the Sharkies, they just strangled the life out of them, the poor Gold Coast Titans. And it's their attack that's really tripping me out here. It should be a hell of a lot better. And I don't know if it's Jamie Chapman that needs to go looking for the ball, or if it's they need to give the ball more to her, or if just teams are just shutting her down really well. But yeah, hope to see her get more involved this weekend. I'm going to give the 1 to 12 for the Titans, but this one smells of an upset. But I'm going to go the Titans in this one. And then to round out the round, and in a monster way, the Newcastle Knights versus the Brisbane Broncos. This is a big game. Newcastle are $1.65. Brisbane are $2.25. Jesse Southwell starts at halfback this weekend. Abigail Roach returns to the centres. And then for the Brizzy Broncos, they're going to be without Tasman Rapiner this weekend due to suspension. Therefore, Mariah Denman comes in to start with jersey 11 on her back. The Brizzy Broncos, again, I was kind of correct in saying that they go through these 15-minute lapses where they do leak points. They do become flimsy. But the past 2 weeks in a row now, Brizzy Broncos are a huge second-half team, putting the sword to the Cowboys last weekend. Meanwhile, the Knights are back. Past 2 weeks in a row, they have put Eels and Tigers well and truly to the sword. Now, it is against the Eels and the Tigers. One copped the wooden spoon last year. The other one is seemingly locked in for the wooden spoon at the moment. So maybe form might not be true, but this will test it. This will bring the integrity into the form of the Newcastle Knights. And while the Broncos are probably the team in better form, I can't go past the Newcastle Knights. You've got to back the Premiers. I've been bitten by that once, and if they lose this weekend, I'll probably tip them again next weekend. But for right now, even though $2.25 is really good value on Brisbane, I'm going to go the Newcastle Knights, the Premiers, to win this game 1 to 12.